for joining us here on another episode of comSpark TV. Today we have James McIntyre, Chief Information Officer with the YMCA of Greater Cincinnati. James, nice to meet you. Thank you. How has your role of the CIO changed over the last decade?
Oh my goodness, it's just been a seismic shift from what it used to be. IT used to all be about the technology, so the T in the technology, and now it's all about the information. So these days I'm more or less like the corporate psychologist, and I track information flows. So the technology, it's really almost irrelevant to me. And so my job now is to get the right information in the right format at the right time to the right person, and that just helps the business really flow very well. As well as that, I've got a seat at the table now, so Chief Information Officer, sort of working directly with the business on strategy instead of just implementing strategy that someone else came up with.
What challenges do you see businesses facing these days?
These days, it's not like back in the 1950s where your dad would get a job in the shoe factory and then he'd retire 40 years later. Things are changing so rapidly that it's kind of, we take our cues from sort of the army. They were there and they used to find that they could predict what was going to happen in a war zone. And then with the Cold War, when that ended, they were there and they said, we just don't know what's going on. So everything is what they called VUCA. So it's volatile, uncertain, it's basically very complex, and it's very ambiguous. And so you can try and make a change, but you've got no clue what's going to happen. And so with businesses these days, we don't want to have a Kodak moment where Kodak was there and they were given the ability. People said, you need to do this digital photographs. And they said, oh, no, we've got billions invested. No one will want to go away from print. And they basically almost went out of business overnight because of that decision. And so what we want to do is we want to reinvent ourselves continuously. So we want to be sort of like the Netflix putting the Blockbuster out of business. And we're there and we figure out, like at the YMCA, if someone could distill down what we do into an app, we could be out of business overnight. And so what we need to do is just constantly just reinvent ourselves.
How do you make sure IT is delivering the most value?
That's a good question. Everyone's got their eyes on the budgets and that sort of stuff these days, and so having a seat at the table is important. Working directly with the people as they're creating the business strategy, taking all of the strategic plan to the IT department and saying, where can IT have a voice? And sometimes I'll say, here's something that we can do, and we never even thought that we'd be able to do it. And so by doing that, and just every single day making sure that everything we're doing is pushing something forward with regards to the strategic plan.
What is your approach to the cloud?
With regard to the cloud, we always make sure that everything is cloud first. So we can't put everything in the cloud, but anything that we can put there, we do. Instead of doing any custom coding, we say we don't want to own any of that because what we want to do is we want to take the information that we can get and sort of manipulate it into reports that will be beneficial to us. So because of that, everything we do is software as a service, infrastructure as a service, wherever we can.
James, what do you think of comSpark?
comSpark is absolutely phenomenal. I think that this, because when Steve first came up with the idea about having a convention here in Cincinnati that would be free when normally something like this would cost $1,200 to $1,600 for a 2-day pass, I just thought, oh, that's ridiculous. But this is absolutely phenomenal. It has been a major impact upon the region, and we've got all of the major universities, all of the major vendors, all of the major businesses are all backing this, and this is just phenomenal.